Yikes, this is good. This is scary good. Hey friends, welcome to Creative X. I'm Brad Hussey, a web designer. Today we're gonna be building a really cool microsite for Bing Crosby. Now, not literally, that would be very cool if the Bing Crosby empire was my client, but alas, I'm just making a fun microsite in Editor X. We're gonna be doing animations, interactions, cool effects, nice typography color palette, falling snow, tons of fun. Follow along and let's do it. We got a layer here with Bing Crosby on the front. He's cropped out, he's puffing his pipe. And as we scroll, it stays in place, and we have a new section kind of layering above it. And then, ooh, fun animation effect with like what looks to be like a vector graphic layered as you scroll down. And then when you hover over top of it, it fans out. Very cool. This is neat. I like the colors here. I like that effect. The color here works great. I click this. It's gonna bring up a Christmas album. This is one, we actually have the record here at our house. And every Christmas, I turn it on, get that record player going, and it's beautiful. You hear the record, you hear the scratching, the Christmas music, his lovely voice, it's wonderful. And so here we've got the record, but watch this. When I hover over this custom button with the vector graphic inside of it, watch what happens here. Ooh, I see 4 things happening. Watch again. Nice. So what happens here is when you hover, it changes color. The icon rotates a bit. There's a shadow, like a hard shadow that's cast offset on the button. The record case, what would you call it? The sleeve tilts to slide out, to roll out the record, which is this cool kind of video, this transparent video that plays a spinning record. So let's watch that again. Like, that's cool. All right, let's keep going. And we get to the end here. Crosby, stream on Spotify, cool kind of skew effect there. And so it starts with Bing, ends with Crosby. Let's go ahead and build this out. All right, so I'm gonna start up a new page here, and I'm just gonna get started by getting rid of this header. And the first thing we need to do is we need to build that hero section. I've already got my site styles and colors set up. In fact, I'm using the colors from my Christmas soundboard. If you remember that video, the soundboard, I created a color palette. I saved it in a site styles library, and then I have it here. And I could just switch through all the different libraries that I have. So I'm using the Christmas soundboard color palette. And I've got typography all set up here. Everything's looking good. That saves us time. Also, we have in our media manager, I've uploaded my site files, and it's simple. I've got the White Christmas album, I've got Bing Crosby here, and I got an SVG file that I created from this cropped out image that I did in Photoshop. I cropped it out, I traced it, and I created a vector SVG file out of it. So now I can upload it here and we can use it right in our Editor X site. Beautiful. So now I'm gonna select this section here, and I'm gonna just get started by changing its background color. We're gonna use that kind of deep red here, maybe just before it. Perfect. All right. And now what I wanna do is I want to add some text. And remember when I said that I've already set up the typography? I totally lied, I didn't. So let's just do that. Trend is the font that I'm using here. Now I'm going to add text. We're just gonna get started. I'm gonna quick add title, and I'm gonna say Bing. So here's what I'm gonna do is I want the text to fill the entire space, and I want it to stretch the screen size. No matter the screen size, I want it to proportionally scale. I'm gonna make the font size scale text, and we're gonna go from 80 pixels up to 600. So very large. Obviously this looks like I broke it. Fear not, I did not. Center that. Now here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go to the layout, and here's the trick. You actually want to set the width of the container that contains the text element, not to a percentage, not to the pixel measurement. You want to set it to max content. So it's just going to fit the max content of the text. And so then now what will happen is as we scale And as we resize the viewport, that perfectly resizes. That's what I'm going for. All right, what's next? We're gonna throw Bing up in there. So we're gonna go to my media. We're gonna find Bing, there he is, just drag him in. I want Bing to be sitting pretty in the bottom right corner. So we're docking him bottom and right. Let's make that width 70%, nice and big. Okay, make sure he's scaling proportionally, nice. Let's resize. Yeah, if you didn't know who he was, then maybe you would want to make sure you could see Bing. But here's another little trick that I might do, just to give you a little flash of, you know, who is this guy? Maybe someone doesn't quite know, or you don't know what it says back there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to animate this on load, and I'm going to say a fade in. And let's delay that by like 1 second. So you get a little bit of time to see Bing. Okay, so let's like check that out. See, that solves the problem. What does it say? It says Bing. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, what's next? Snowflakes. I basically borrowed that from my Christmas soundboard video that we just did. I got that code. I'll share that snippet of code from a code pen. It's a JavaScript library that has been around for probably 15 years, I think. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm going to, in this section, make sure I add an embed, and we're gonna choose embed code right here. And we can enter the code, paste in the code. Now the code, where you're gonna get this is, I'm gonna link it up, but basically this is the HTML snowstorm JavaScript based snow for web pages since 2003. And I'm gonna click update, and that should update the code. There's your snowflakes. You can see it in this little kind of bounding container. So I'm just going to stretch that to fill the section. All right, so now we're almost done here. Let's click this section, and I want the height of this section to actually be 100 VH, which is the viewport height, 100 viewport height, and a minimum height of 1,000 pixels. The reason why is because your viewport height can be really small. Like if you take your phone and you turn it in landscape mode, the viewport height is actually very short, and I don't want it to be a short viewport height. Next, new section, blank. What we're gonna do is make it the same thing. We're gonna do a height of 100 viewport height and a minimum height of, this one we could get away with 500 pixels, it's fine. Color of this section is gonna be that deep green. I like that color combination, it looks very good. We're gonna add our media, that SVG file. Okay, so if you recall in my little demo at the beginning, on load, this kind of created an effect where it cascaded, where it kind of looked like they all fell from the screen in layers to come to this position. So the way that we're going to achieve that effect, let me just show it to you one more time. All right, let's check it out here. There. So the way that we can achieve that effect is I have 4 of these on top of one another with increasing levels of opacity so that it has, and they're all hidden behind this white one. On load, they load in, they animate in at different sets of delay so that it kind of gives that effect. And then on hover, I want it to fan out like a deck of cards or something like that. Something cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go to my layers panel, and I'm just gonna call this one Bing 1. And I'm gonna copy and paste this 3 times. Now I can take all these, and what I'm gonna do just for now is just kind of separate them so that I could see them a little bit better. There we go. So I wanna take Bing 1. Bing 1 is gonna be the white, full white. All right, so I'm gonna take Bing 2 and go 80% opacity. Maybe let's do 75. Okay, and then Bing 3, we're gonna do 50%. And then Bing 4, I want it to be 25%. I think that should be good. So now we're gonna line these up underneath Bing 1. So we got Bing 2, we're gonna have, well, here's a better way of doing it. I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna select all these because they're all arranged properly. I'm just gonna center. So now they're all gonna be perfect. Bing 1 is gonna be first, so we're gonna animate this, puff in, no delay. Bing 2 is going to be puff in, customize, it's going to be 0.2 delay. Bing 3, puff in, 0.4 delay. And Bing 4, puff in, 0.6 delay. Let's preview that. Yep, nice. Okay, so now what I want to do is when I hover, I want it to fan out. We can do that in Editor X by using interactions. So we're going to select Bing 1 because that's the one in front, and we're going to go to our interactions in the inspector panel. We're going to add a trigger, and on hover, what we want to do is we want to have all of them move out. So we need to do all of these individually. So the way I'm going to do this is the first interaction on hover, we're hovering over the first Bing 1, and the affected element will be, let's do Bing 1. Let's have it so he rotates just a little bit. So action type is apply an effect. The effect is going to be custom. And I'm going to say Bing 1. Now, this is the design mode for our interactions. Interaction design mode. This is where I can design the affected state. So this is the hover state, and then there's the initial state. So we're going to start with the hover state. This is what happens once we've interacted with the element. So I'm going to, over here in the inspector panel, I can change these properties. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate him 5 degrees. Yes. Okay. And maybe I just want him to like pop over to the right a little bit. So it's like rotate, move over, just whoop, kind of like you're just doing that. All right. So we're going to do that with a translate 5 pixels over. So real subtle. So if I play that, yeah, maybe even more. Let's move them over 10 pixels. Yeah. Okay. So that's perfect. So that's Bing 1. Now, because I already have a hover interaction added to Bing 1, I can add more. I can kind of stack them in here. I can add more interactions right within this hover. So while I'm hovering on Bing 1, what else do I want to do? I want to add a new interaction, but the affected element, I'm going to choose on canvas and choose Bing 2. Click done. That's the target element. And now I'm going to add another custom effect. This is going to be Bing 2. And this is where we can have some fun. So let's rotate this Bing 2, 10 and 10. 10 degree rotate, 10 pixels over on the X axis. I got it. This is what it's all about. This is how you play around with your animations, you play around with your interactions, you create your designs, you mess around, and you figure it out as you go. At least that's what I like to do. And so we're just messing around here. Finally, we got this. It's gonna be 20 and 20. And again, and these are just numbers I'm just kind of making up. I'm creating my own system. Let's see what this looks like. Haha. That's cool. So now what I want to do is when eventually we click this and it will slide us down to the next section. So let's see what the next section is. Okay, so now let's add another section. We're going to do a similar thing here. The height of this section is going to be 100 VH. Kind of like what we had before. Minimum height, 500 pixels is fine. And I'm going to make this a grid. I'm going to switch this up, make it a 2x1 grid. Perfect. So this is where we're going to add the record and that cool effect. So I'm going to throw in White Christmas, and let's make the width of this 50% of its section here. We're going to center that and dock it to the right of this grid cell. Now I need to throw that button in. So what we could do is we can either create a button from scratch, or a little pro tip, if you've built a cool component in Editor X and you want to reuse it, you could save those as assets, and you can save them as assets to a kind of a library that you could pull from. So I'm going to go where I've already built this button right here, and I'm going to right click and save as asset. I'm going to say Bing button, and I'm going to add that to my Christmas, let's call it Christmas soundboard. We should see my Bing button here. There it is. Drag it in, and it should have my hover effect and everything baked right into the design. Nice. Let's align this button. We're going to align this to the left, and it's going to be vertical center as well. We want space between these two elements, the image and the button. So we're going to choose the section, and we're going to have some gaps in between the grid here. So 30 pixels, that should do for me. Yep. And now here's what I want to happen. When I hover, I want the White Christmas record sleeve to slightly tilt, as if we're just kind of like tilting out, and then have a record kind of slide out as if it would have happened in real life. But it's going to be a transparent video. Now you can find a graphic or an image or create a shape of a record and have it rotate if you want. You could do that. But you can also play around with transparent videos, which is a cool feature in Editor X. You can easily do that. So I'm going to add that first. I'm going to go to my media, and then I'm going to go to my transparent videos, more transparent videos, and just search, just look for something for like vinyl. There it is. That's what I want to use. Add it to the page. I'm going to make sure it's the right size, as if it's a part of this element. There we go. And let's make sure that the behaviors are set to automatically play and loop forever. That's what we want. Okay. And I want it to be behind this sleeve, so you don't know that it's there until we tilt it out. So I'm going to go Command Option and the down arrow that's on a Mac to put that a layer back. There it is. So it's there. As you can see in the layers panel, it's just behind the record player, the record sleeve, the image. So now let's click this button, turn on an interaction, add a trigger. It's going to be a hover, and the affected element, I'm going to choose on the canvas. It's going to be this image. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a custom, let's say vinyl sleeve, and we're going to rotate this 5 degrees. That's a bit much. Let's do like 2 degrees. Yeah, nice and subtle. And that's it. Yep. But we're also going to add a new interaction. Choose the affected element on the canvas from the layers panel. I'm going to choose the transparent video. Done. Effect, custom. This is the vinyl record video. Okay, so now what we want to do on the hover, what we want it to do is move out a little bit. So I'm going to actually, on the X axis under translate, I'm going to make it go 50%, which means 50% of its width. That's how far on the X axis it will move over, so that it moves like halfway out of its sleeve. So let's check it out. That's what I'm looking for. So now if we hit done and preview, nice. Now I think that might have been a little quick. No, if you want to slow it down, you can. You can change the easing too if you want it to be linear or ease in, ease out. Yeah, I actually like that. All right, so that's it for that. But what I want to do is when we click on this, I want this next section to slide up in front of it, so it looks like it's a part of it. So we're going to go back to our edit. The way we do that is make sure that this section has no background. It's going to be transparent, which it is. And then we're going to select this previous section with our Bing SVG graphics. And I'm going to change it in the inspector panel to a position type of sticky. So now it's going to stick in place, and then the rest will slide up in front of it. Let's see if that works. Okay, so you can't. Interesting. You see how it looks like the record effect that we created is gone? That's because it's hiding behind it. And so the way we're going to fix that is you can right click on the section and you can arrange it and send it backwards, or you can take the other section and send it forward. So I'm just going to move this, send it to the back, and then that should do the trick. Yeah, so now when I scroll, it'll stick here and the next section will slide up. Perfect. But I want it to actually, when I click on this, the next section to slide up. So here's how we do that. It's very simple. Let's make this section an anchor. In the inspector panel, turn on add anchor. We'll just call this vinyl section. And then Bing 1, I'm going to make it a link, an anchor on this page, vinyl section. So now we've got this, click, boom. Yikes, this is good. This is scary good. Okay, what's next? Footer section, nice and simple. Let's add one more section here. Oh, we're breezing along here. Blank, you know the drill. This is gonna be 100 VH, minimum 500 pixels is fine. Let's make it like a nice gold from our theme colors. And then we're gonna add Crosby, the text. So I'm just gonna copy this bit of text here. Perfect. I'm gonna change the text here to be a color of our deep red. I like that. That's a nice color combination right there. And now we're gonna add that button. So we've got under our assets, we got our Bing button right here. We're gonna center, but we gotta change up a few things here. We gotta change up the color and the size. So I'm gonna change the color under the design. We're gonna do our deep green, and the text is gonna be our site white. Nice. Now, obviously that's not very big. So what we can do is just select the button itself. And I mean, you can resize it like this. That's what's nice about drag and drop. So I like it handy about there. Center. Text is too small though. So now we can resize that text. Let's do something like 32 pixels. Okay. And then I want that icon to be like, let's do 52 pixels. And then we want some space between these elements here. So space between text and icon, nice. And let's make sure our hover looks good. Let's make it like our yellow, red. Let's make it our red, deep red. Nope, light red. Okay, and now what I want to do is, it looks like on hover, our icon is too small. So let's make sure our icon is the right size. Very good. I want that text to rotate and skew on hover of this button. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my interactions for this button. I'm going to turn on a hover trigger. We're going to affect a new element. That's going to be the Crosby text in the back. And the effect is going to be custom. And then what I'm going to do is rotate it -10 degrees. And I want to skew it like, I don't know, 10%. How about -25%? And let's see what happens on the y-axis. Nope. -15%. No, we don't need the y-axis. Just this. And translate, scale. Let's see if we could scale it. This looks good. Okay, so I'm gonna click done. And let's preview that. Cool, but I actually want it to, fade out a little bit, have more opacity. So I'm gonna adjust the effects. The opacity on this is gonna be like 60%. Done, preview. Yes. All right, so now we need to make sure it looks good on our tablet. So let's switch down to that. And that's a little bit tall. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to select Bing. It's gonna be center. And I'm gonna change the section height to be a height of like 80 VH and maybe a minimum height of 800 pixels. That looks a little more appropriate for, say, a tablet view. Let's change the vector art for all of these to be something bigger. So I want it to be more like 20%, be 25%. Yes. So I'm going to change all these to be a width of 25%, and all hover interactions on mobile devices become tap interactions automatically. So obviously you can't hover on an iPad, but you can tap. Same with an iPhone or any mobile device. So this would be a tap interaction to create that little spinny effect. And the height of this one, 100 VH is fine. Same with this one, but now we need to adjust this. So let's make this image more like 70%. We need to make the transparent video 70% as well. By the vinyl, let's make this button a little bit not as wide. Go down. Now this looks a little bit gnarly. So we're going to take Crosby and we're going to align it to the top, but then actually bump it down maybe like 20%. Yes. Maybe even more like 35. Yep. By the vinyl, too wide. Looks good. And now let's go to our mobile. Start at the top. Minimum height, 600 pixels. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. It just looks tall right now because my viewport is very tall because I'm using a desktop computer. But when I'm on my phone, the viewport will be appropriately sized. You know, if I wanted to actually view it on, let's say like an iPhone size, it would look like this. That's good. Okay, that's good. This is not. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna stack them on top of each other. I keep saying stack, but stack's not the right word because stack is a special type of container in Editor X. So I don't wanna confuse it. Stacking is different in Editor X. It's this type of container where you literally stack things. That's why it's called it. But when I say I wanna stack these, don't confuse it with stacking in Editor X. I'm going to convert this from a 2x1 to a 1x2 grid. Now I can adjust this to dock to the bottom and center. Now we've got our nice little transparent video there, bottom center. What I want to do when we click the button, because it's going to be the hover interaction is now a click interaction. When we click on the button, it's going to do something like take us somewhere. So we won't even see our cool little interaction. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to make it so you see part of the video by default. There. And then this by the vinyl. And then Crosby, that text. Looks like we need to make it smaller on mobile devices. So let's see. Mobile breakpoint breaks around here. So we'll make it so that it goes down to something like 60. And we don't want the maximum to be 300 here. We want it to be like 120. Let's see what happens. That's good. And then we want this text, Crosby. Let's make it margin top like 50%. That's a bit tall. So let's make the minimum height on this one. Let's just resize this button and see what it looks like in our preview. Let's go to our iPhone. Yep, I'm happy with that. Now we need to turn off the interaction on mobile. So I'm gonna go here, click on the button, and I'm going to not delete the entire interaction, the trigger I mean. I'm gonna delete the actual effect that I added to it. So I'm going to delete, but you'll see on tablet, it's still there. Although I can delete it still because on tablet, you're still not gonna see the interaction because it's a tap, but and you can see that it is still here as well. So we just deleted it here. So now it should look like that. That's cool. Okay. Final touch. We want that button by the vinyl. We want it to say stream on Spotify. And I actually wanted to link it off to Spotify, which I have right here. So now preview, stream on Spotify, boom, Spotify. Nice. Okay, let's preview it. Beautiful, nice. Cool effect. I like it, click. Ooh, nice. I love it. It's awesome. All right, there it is. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, ain't it, Bing Crosby? All right, Creative X crew, really appreciate you. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, do me a favor, smash the like button and subscribe. It tells the algorithm that I'm special, and that's always a good thing. Oh, I couldn't keep a straight face on that one. Thanks, everybody. You're awesome. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I'll see you in our next video. Cheers.